and welcome back to Student of the Gun Radio. Thank you for joining us yet again. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Jared appreciates it. And, of course, our sponsors appreciate it. We're glad that you guys are out there wherever there happens to be, whether it's on the treadmill or driving in your car or working late at night or whatever you happen to be doing. Thanks for being a student of the gun. And if you're one of the hundreds, if not thousands of people listening to this podcast for the very first time, thank you for joining us. And be patient with us, and we'll be patient with you because it's going to take a little bit for you guys to get it. Isn't that right, Jared? It takes them a little bit of time to catch our sarcasm.
That is correct.
That is correct. Jared agrees with me. Okay, fantastic.
But before we keep going, we're obviously recording this right now, as you can hear our voice. And as you can hear our voice, it is Mother's Day. No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. No.
Not as they can hear.
We're recording it on Mother's Day.
As we're recording this, not as you can hear our voice.
We're recording this on Mother's Day, and you're going to hear it after Mother's Day. So,
and for all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, belated.
I just wanted to say that all the mothers out there gave birth to a child, but mine gave birth to a legend. And happy Mother's Day, Mom.
Yeah, I wondered where he was going with that, and I should have figured that he was going to take that turn. I should have known.
The chiseled slab of hard man body, for all you guys that get that.
I'm looking down here on my board. I don't have a mute Jared's microphone button. He has a mute my microphone button, but I don't have one for his.
I've got the power.
I think that's wrong. I think I need one over on my side, too. All right, Jared, before we get into it, who do we want to thank? We want to thank our good friends at Crossbreed Holsters in Republic, Missouri. We want to thank our friends at Kel-Tec Weapons down in Cocoa, Florida. Check them out at keltecweapons.com. Of course, Colt Manufacturing, makers of the LE 901 308 rifle. And who else do we want to thank? Well, we want to thank our good guy sponsor, which is XS Sights. XS Sight Systems sponsors the Good Guy of the Week. And Jared's going to tell us who our Good Guy of the Week is and what was their question.
Our Good Guy of the Week posted their question to the fan wall on the Student of the Gun mobile app. If you don't have that yet, get it because I said so. And the good guy this week, I believe it uses a Facebook name or whatever you log in with, and the name is Armed Militia. So Armed Militia, if you could email me your address, shirt size, phone number, and I'll get the info to XS.
And your actual name.
Yeah, your actual name.
The actual name that is going to be on the postage label for the Good Guy of the Week package.
We usually, when people sign an email, it's signed with their name.
Well,
right?
We need their whole name, not just like Bob123 at Yahoo.
Bob123. Anonymous at gmail.com.
Yeah, anonymous at gmail.com.
Anyway, Armed Militia's question this week is, what is your opinion on using different types of shotgun ammo for home defense? Birdshot, double-aught buck, rock salt, wax slugs.
Slugs?
Yeah. Not sludge. Slugs.
Not slugs.
And, stuff, ammo to that extent.
Okay. If I was a gambling man, I'm not a gambling man, but if I was a gambling man, I would say that our friend Armed Militia has a catalog in his hot little hands, or he's been online and he's been to like a place like AmericanSpecialtyAmmo.com or what have you. And the ones that bring you the Dragon's Breath and the Bolo rounds and the Flechette rounds. I don't know if you can get Flechette rounds anymore. I think the ATF has decided that they can go through armor, and so that you're not allowed to have them anymore. Folks, quick aside, the ATF decided all on their own that you could no longer own the 7N6, the 545x39 surplus military ammunition because it has a steel core in it, and that makes it armor piercing. Folks, every rifle round is armor piercing, whether it's 30-06 or 308 or 223 or what have you. We're not talking about panels, but every rifle round can go through soft body armor. Soft body armor doesn't stop them. And so when we let them start doing arbitrary things, let's face facts, folks. You think, well, that's reasonable. I can see that you wouldn't want people to allow people to have that. You start putting yourself in the, well, I'm a peasant and I shouldn't be allowed class, and that the state knows better than I do. That's a pretty slippery slope that we're in, and unfortunately, I think we've already fallen down the slope and we're heading to the bottom. But just a quick aside about that armor-piercing ammo.
I've got a question about the armor-piercing ammo. If they want to use the, if you don't have anything to hide or if you're not doing anything wrong, then why are you afraid? If you're not doing anything wrong, why can't we have the armor-piercing ammo?
That's a good question. Why are the citizens of why has a government agency come out in public and said that the citizens of the country are forbidden to have a certain type of ammunition because it could penetrate body armor? Well, if you aren't behaving badly, it's because criminals will get it. Well, that's why you can't have it, because criminals might get it.
Since cocaine is not illegal. It's definitely legal.
Crack cocaine
and it doesn't
meth
exist.
And crank and stuff like that. Those things are illegal, and criminals don't have those because they're illegal. You know that, right?
Or better yet, in Illinois they don't allow. In Chicago they don't allow criminals to have guns.
Oh yeah, that's right. They're not allowed to have guns. That's why it's so safe there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. I forgot. All right. But getting back to our question, getting back to the ammunition question. The great thing about a 12-gauge shotgun, the great thing about a pump-action 12-gauge is that as a tool, as either a hunting tool or a self-defense tool or a sporting tool, for games, shooting sports games like clays and trap and skeet and all that stuff, that's what's great about the 12-gauge is it's so versatile. But that is also the downside of that same thing. And you're like me thinking, well, what do you mean? How can versatility be a downside? Well, because it is so versatile, the 12-gauge shotgun, because there's so much different types of ammunition available for it, people get confused. They have a tendency to overthink the issue because there's so much stuff available. And what I find with these specialty ammos, this 12-gauge specialty ammo, now, am I saying that it's not a good idea to have, let's say, a 12-gauge flare that you could use for signaling an emergency? No. But when it comes to the basic task of home defense, and this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about skeet or trap. We're not talking about hunting birds. We're not talking about signaling an emergency with flares. We're talking about home defense. And if you're keeping a 12-gauge shotgun as a home defense tool, this is my recommendation: double-aught buckshot. And if you don't like double-aught buckshot because there's something better out there, okay, get number 4 shot or get number 1 shot or what have you. But use some type of shot. Now you say, well, what about slugs? Slugs are great, but slugs are single projectiles. And single projectile slugs, which weigh about 1 ounce out of a 12-gauge or 1 1/4 ounce, depending on which ones you buy, will definitely go all the way through your house. Now, not that a 25 ACP won't go through interior walls, but if you're worried about it striking the target and continuing on through the target, through the next wall, through the next wall, through the next wall to your kids, then a slug is probably not going to be for you. Now, when it comes to specialty ammo, and this is where people get wrapped around the axle. Jared, do you want to say something or add something to it?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that if you shoot a shotgun in a hallway and use double-aught buck, then obviously you can't miss the target, right?
Well, yeah, no, that's not true at all. That's another myth that people have, is they have this vision in their mind that all you have to do is point the gun down the hallway, press the trigger, and it's going to fill the entire hallway full of, buckshot, like a hornet's nest is flying down range at them, hundreds of rounds. No, that's not how it works. And you're like, well, that's why you should use birdshot, because there's so many more pellets. Well, dude, a spread pattern is a spread pattern. It's not like you're going to touch it off. It's going to go 2 feet out of the muzzle and fill the entire hallway with shot. It doesn't work like that. But when it comes to these specialty ammos, and let's take a moment real quick to talk about these, quote, less than lethal 12-gauge ammunition, like rubber buck or rubber slugs. There's even one company out there, I don't know who they are, and I'm not going to give them a free plug anyway, but they make something that looks like, those little cush balls, those little spiky cush ball things. You guys know what I'm talking about. Well, they make one out of rubber. It's like a rubber ball with all these little fingery things on it, and they load it into a 12-gauge shell with some black powder or some low recoil powder, and you're supposed to shoot people with that. And there they have what they do. They have one that's called a hornet's nest or a hornet's round, where it's basically double-aught buck, but the pellets are made out of rubber. You say, well, if these aren't good, then why would they make them? Well, they're very specifically designed as crowd control type tools and for law enforcement or corrections officers. Now, when a law enforcement or corrections officer uses a 12-gauge shotgun with rubber buck or what have you, rubber slugs, they're using them on people that they already know are in a position where, like, for instance, in a prison, that they have a controlled situation. Now, if the rubber buck doesn't work in the prison riot, does it mean the person's going to get to the officer and kill him? Probably not. In your situation, if the rubber buck fails to stop the 1 or 2 or 3 home invaders that are coming into your house, it could cost you your life. And one thing that people, and just when it comes to less than lethal, I don't care whether it's rubber buck, I don't care whether it's rock salt, I don't care whether it's some other kind of funky thing. There's even one they sell, it's like a pepper spray shell. It's got like pepper spray in it, and you shoot it, and it comes out in front of you. They had one when I was in the police academy. They had CS in all these different size shells, and it wasn't a projectile. It was like a powder, and when you fired the shell, this CS powder came out of the end of it, and they were, quite frankly, they were pretty worthless. We used them in training, and they were pretty anemic. If you want to use gas, use big canisters. They work really well. Loading a shotgun with rubber buck does not take away the fact that it is still a gun or a firearm. And you say, well, why is that a big deal and why do I care? A shotgun, now, smart students of the gun know this. When is the only time that you are justified in pointing a firearm, displaying a firearm, threatening someone with a firearm? Justified, not breaking the law, but justified. When is the only time that you're allowed to do that? Jared, when is that?
When you have the ability, opportunity, or when they demonstrate the ability, opportunity, and intent.
Right, and that demonstrates, that means you are in what? Fear for your life. Fear of death or serious bodily harm. That is the only time that you are lawfully able to or legally allowed to threaten a person with a firearm, to point a firearm at a person, to fire a gun at a person, is if you can go to court and say, I felt that I was in a position where there was death or serious bodily harm. I was afraid of death or serious bodily harm. You say, well, okay, well, what's your point, Paul? Well, if you feel that you are legitimately in a position where you're in fear of death or serious bodily harm, why are you trying to use less than lethal methods to stop that? Because you're a nice guy or a nice girl, or because you want the person or persons breaking into your house to think that you're fair, that you're a nice person, that, I got it. So if and when I go to court, there's no way I'll get convicted of any wrongdoing because I loaded my shotgun with rubber buckshot. Really, you think that? Is it not a gun? Now, I got a question for all of you scholars out there. You're heading back to your car from, getting dinner or the movies or shopping or what have you, and a guy gets between you and your vehicle, and he pulls out a pistol, and he says, stop, and he points a gun at you. And you're like, holy crap, I'm about to be killed. So you pull your own gun out in kind, you shoot and kill that person. And it turns out, in the investigation afterwards, the police come and they take his gun into evidence, and the detectives determined that his gun was empty. There was nothing in his gun. He couldn't have killed you with that gun if he wanted to. He was just threatening you with it. Does that mean that your shooting is now illegal or unlawful? And you're like, well, no. Well, does that mean, let's say I got one. Let's say the guy doesn't die. He lives. The person lives. And they go to court. and you shoot him, he lives, they go to court, and he's charged with aggravated robbery. And they bring up the fact that his gun was empty. And they're like, oh, well, you're innocent now of aggravated robbery. We can't convict you. Or, aggravated robbery, attempted murder, what have you. Well, we're not going to convict you of that because your gun wasn't loaded, or the magazine was loaded and the chamber was empty, or whatever. Well, why am I bringing this up? Because a firearm is always a firearm. Even if it's empty, if you threaten someone with it, you are either justified in doing so based on the circumstance, or you're committing a crime. A gun is always a gun. When we start loading our guns with things that we think are less than lethal, this is what happens to you, the good person. You either start treating the gun like it's not a gun, like it is not a shotgun, like it is not a lethal force tool. People will start treating them like giant cans of pepper spray or tasers or what have you. Folks, it's always a gun. It is always a gun. We treat guns as lethal force instruments because that's what they are. And when you start playing these games with, well, sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't. I've actually had people tell me that what you should do in an ideal situation is mix load lethal and non-lethal into your pump action shotgun. That is a recipe for absolute disaster. It is a complete and total recipe for disaster. If you're in a multiple felon situation where you got 2 or 3 home invaders have broken in your door and you literally have 5 seconds to stop them before they overpower you, beat you down, and then end up raping your family and murdering you. Okay, you have 5 seconds to stop them. You're going to waste 4 or 5 of those seconds shooting rock salt or blanks or rubber buck or what have you. Folks, in a life or death situation, a legitimate home defense situation, that is not the time to be screwing around with half measures. And that's what you folks do out there. You think that you're somehow I'm being reasonable by going less. There's no court in the land that's going to convict you because you didn't use more restraint than you should in a deadly force situation. Now, don't tell me about the guy in Minnesota. That guy, he murdered those kids after they were down. Okay, I'm not going to talk about that. But, folks, it doesn't make you look like a de facto good guy to use these rubber buck or rock salt or blanks or whatever. If it's a shotgun, it needs to be loaded with lethal force ammunition. Now, you guys out there, you know who you are. All you guys are out there, and you're going to convince me that at close range, birdshot is the best thing for you. That at close range, birdshot is just as lethal. Yes. Okay, Jared and I are separated by about, 5 feet, Jared?
Yeah, about 5 feet.
Given the length of an average shotgun barrel is 18 to 20 inches, if I pointed a shotgun at Jared right now and it had birdshot on it and I shot him in the chest, would he probably die? Yeah, he would probably die because by the time the shot pattern reached him, it would only be about 2 inches across or 3 inches across, and the vast majority would go into him. When you do that, when you load your gun specifically for a designated situation, and this is where all these specialty rounds come in, you're loading the gun thinking that you're going to use it in this specific situation, this circumstance. I'm never going to take a shot beyond 5 yards. Really? You know that? You can pre-plan out, unless you're committing murder or robbery or a homicide, how can you pre-plan your defensive shooting? It's a good question. If you pre-plan your defensive shooting, then it's not a defensive shooting. It's a premeditated shooting. All right, Paul, did your brain just explode out there? Jared, did your brain just explode?
My brain is still intact.
Your brain's still intact. Do you see what you're doing, folks? You're loading up your guns based on this one scenario that you have played out in your mind. You're like, well, when this specific scenario happens, this type of ammunition is going to work perfectly. But that's not how the real world is. What if you have to take a shot at 15 yards instead of 10 or instead of 5 or instead of 3? And now your target is legitimately a lethal force threat, but it's 17 yards away, and you've got like number 12 dust load loaded up in your gun. and you might as well throw handfuls of sand at the bad guy. Folks, stop trying to pre-think out your defensive situations. Now you're like, don't write me letters telling me that you carry a gun, so that means you're premeditated. No. Stop yourself. Don't overthink it. If you're going to load your gun, your shotgun, buy some type of buckshot. All right? And thank you for Armed Militia, your code name, for writing in that question. And I hope that kind of helps you guys out. And just for those of you that are fans of the TV show will know that we actually did a shotgun spread segment on the TV show where we took common double-aught buckshot and we put spread patterns at, 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, and so forth. And you could actually see how they spread on cardboard targets. Now, what's the next one? The next one, I don't know if we want to stay away from Michigan, but we can't stay away from Michigan, and we can't stay away from Detroit because, folks, so much is happening right now in the Motor City, in Detroit. Every single week, we have thousands upon thousands of professional scumbags, of career criminals, of turds that have been used to just, they've been used to being able to just, do what they need to do, go about their business, rob people, rape, murder, sell dope, do whatever they need without people fighting back, or at least without people fighting back very effectively. And we had a situation that just occurred, and this came to us from theblaze.com. The original story came to us from theblaze.com. And what we want to talk about is the pistol packing granny. That's right, a pistol packing granny. There's audio that goes with this, and what we're going to do is the audio setup is a woman, I believe she was in her 50s. She used a firearm to defend herself, to lawfully defend herself from two attackers in Detroit, Michigan. And she survived it. Now, she did get shot, but she survived it. And so the local news guy, he comes out and he wants to interview her. And that is what this audio that we've got here is from.
If I wouldn't have had my gun, I would be dead today.
Late Saturday night, she arrived home after working a double shift. She saw two men moving closer. Before she got out of the car, she put her .45 caliber handgun in her pocket.
And he said, "Don't pull it," and he shot immediately.
She was hit 3 times in the side and once in the hand. It was not her shooting hand.
I said, "You pulled out and start shooting." One, he was right in the middle of the street. The other one was right here on the side.
Paris waited on a neighbor's porch until EMS arrived.
I kept applying pressure to my side of where the blood was coming from.
A police source says the 2 men were arrested after showing up wounded at Sinai Grace Hospital, the same place where Paris was being treated.
I'm extremely proud of her because she was able to return fire back. She had something to protect herself. If she don't, she would be dead.
She has a faint scar, but a strong memory of a mugger hitting her with a gun 10 years ago. 2 years ago, she got a concealed weapons permit.
This is ludicrous, the way that they are just robbing and trying to take stuff from people and killing people.
She praises Detroit police for the help they gave that night, but she's convinced that law-abiding citizens need to be ready to protect themselves.
Well, could he have shot you because he thought you were going to shoot him?
No, he didn't shoot me because he felt as though I was going to shoot him. He didn't care. He just shot. He didn't look like, oh my God, I shouldn't have. He just had like the devil in him.
So here we have a 51-year-old grandmother who is minding her own business. She comes home from work late in the evening or what have you, and she's tired. All she wants to do, I'm sure, is probably get in the house, you take her shoes off, relax, and decompress. And can she do that? No. She's got 2 scumbags, 2 pieces of human debris, decide that, oh, well, we're just going to go ahead and rob her just because. Because why? Because you think you have the right to rob people? And, and if you listen to the story, listen to her account of it, she's got a concealed carry gun that she's had for a couple of years because she learned her lesson about being a victim of a crime. She gets it. And this is the great thing about this story is she says, I saw these guys coming towards me and I thought that something was wrong. And she went ahead and got her gun out and got it in her hand. And that is part of that. That is part of the reason why she survived, because she had that survival instinct to think, folks, when things are wrong. You do. You know when things are out of place, when people are acting weird. Unfortunately, though, what has happened in our modern society is we've been so beaten down by the political correctness Nazis that you're not allowed to point out weird behavior or strange behavior or unusual behavior or behavior that makes you nervous, because what have we been taught? Well, if you don't accept everyone at all times for everything they do, then there's something wrong with you. You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a homophobe. You're a sexist, whatever. If you don't agree with everything everyone does, and you say, well, come on, Paul, how does that apply to criminals? Well, here's how it applies. This is what happens to people that are victims of crimes. After they've, and ask a cop friend if you've got one. I saw this when I was a cop. People become victimized, and then later on, they're given their statement to the police. And they ask them about the situation. And they said, okay, when did you first notice? And what they'll do is often they'll say, well, yeah, I saw the guy over there. I was going to my car and I saw the guy and I thought to myself, well, he looks kind of out of place or he looks kind of weird or something like that. But I put it out of my mind and I went back to, looking at my phone, or I went back to whatever. Well, that was the clue. That was the one clue that you were going to get. Very rarely is there no clue. Very rarely are you just walking down the street and ninja drops out of a tree and lands on your head. That's not how it works. Usually you see something coming. But most people, because they don't want to be judgmental, or because they don't want to, they've been taught that it's not right to judge people. What they'll do is they'll fight. They nullify that God-given natural instinct. I mean, animals have it. Cats, watch a cat. How easy is it to sneak up on a cat? It's pretty hard, right? Because they have that natural instinct built into them. Well, humans, we've got it too, but over so many years of being beaten down, people they'll hide or they'll suppress that survival instinct. I thought that was a really good point in this story. And I think it's probably a point that a lot of people will skip over, is the fact that she realized and she took steps. And some people will say, well, there's something wrong, but I don't want to take any overt steps because then it becomes my fault. And what was kind of sick about the interview is, the interviewer guy, the reporter dude, he gets this lady's statement. He, listens to her story, and then he says, well, do you think perhaps, that they shot you because they thought you were going to do something? And that really, and I was watching, and I watched the clip and listened to it, and that kind of made me sick, made me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Like, you vermin, you piece of crap, you apologist. Why do you even feel the need to say that? Well, I know that you're a 51-year-old grandmother who's just going about her business in her own driveway, and two vermin came up and shot you. Well, I know that, but do you think maybe the better course of action would have been to just submit? And now he didn't say that, but he inferred the whole, well, maybe they shot you because they felt scared. Well, why were they even there? Because they made the decision to be criminal scumbags. And this woman here made the decision to be an armed citizen, to be a victor, not a victim. And, of course, it says in the story that, she praised the Detroit Police Department for their response in the situation, but she still believes that people need to be armed and trained. Wow. Don't let Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or any of the other race pimps, don't let them hear that. We got, and this woman has a different skin tone than me. She is a Detroit resident. And if you listen to the Democrat, progressive, liberal pimps, it's not the criminal's fault. It's society's fault. And you shouldn't, listen to the pieces of human filth like Nanny Bloomberg or that scuzz bucket up there in Chicago. The guns are not the answer. They're the problem. We need to get rid of guns. And if we just have passed more gun control laws, then now, Jared, is this I know we're not talking about Chicago specifically, but is this not an excellent example? Remember last week during the Windy City segment, we talked about the difference between the mentality of modern day Chicago and modern day Detroit.
Yeah, it is. It's a perfect example.
We had a woman of color who was an anti-violence, anti-gun advocate, right?
Well, she's obviously racist.
Who's in her own car. Guys walk up to her and, start shooting, and she's dead. And we've got this woman right here in Detroit, Michigan, not Chicago, in Detroit. Not the same situation, but eerily similar. They walk up to her car, point and start shooting. She shoots back. And they're like, oh, it's not so fun to be a scumbag anymore. We got to get out of here. So, and those guys have actually, if you listen to the story there, they didn't die, but she got them. And they ended up in the hospital. And when they got into the hospital, the police found them and arrested them. And so they might do a little bit of time in jail, maybe. But, that is an excellent example of what happens when you wish upon a rainbow and hope that if we could just, pass more gun laws, and if we could just spend more money, and we need another $1 million grant to hand out leaflets, to hand out anti-violence leaflets. Now, speaking of the anti-violence track, and I'm going to talk about this and then we'll move on, but remember we talked about the whole, violence is never the answer? Jared, you remember that, right?
Yeah, I
the whole
remember
violence
it.
is never the answer. What is this young lady? This grandma. Her name is what's her name? They call her Rambo, but that's kind of ridiculous.
Mrs. Ainsworth, Paris Ainsworth.
Paris Ainsworth. I wonder if the Orange Tree Project or the ceasefire. I wonder if Project Ceasefire went and talked to her. That if she would tell them that violence is never the answer.
Well, she should have just tried to talk it out with them. I don't
She
know.
should have. She should have dialogued with them, asked them, if they didn't feel bad about how they were behaving.
She should have. Right. What she should have done is she should have put her gun on the ground and said, "Look, I put mine on the ground. Why don't you do the same thing?"
Oh! Listen to Jared's channeling back to a previous episode, way back to last year. And if you haven't been with us long enough, what Jared was channeling was a female police officer did that when confronted with an armed felon. And you're like, what?
Didn't she die?
Oh, yeah, she died. She was paralyzed first, and then she ended up dying. But anyway, we digress. So again, we have an instance where a person with a gun ends up being the winner against another person with a gun, as opposed to an unarmed person. Well, but criminals would never shoot women, right?
No, of course not.
Oh, okay. And they would never pick on people that are older than them, weaker than them, that they perceived.
I think usually they go for younger, stronger targets.
Yeah, because they're, if you're an older person, or if you're a woman, they won't pick on you because that's not fair. Because all these scumbags, they have this sense of fair play, right? And if you, Jared, and I don't know if you picked up on it in the interview that she said, but she said to the douche weenie guy from the news channel who asked her, well, don't you think that, is there a chance that maybe they shot you because you resisted or what have you? And she said that, what did she say? How did she describe it? She said he had the look of
the devil
himself. Yeah, in his eyes. And that's what you as a citizen need to be prepared to deal with. The person who's going to attack you in the parking lot is probably not the coworker across the hall from you. It's not your paper boy. It's not your news. Well, nobody has a paper boy anymore. It's not the postal clerk. It's not the lady who checks you out in the grocery store. Okay, these are vermin, and they're violent killers, and you need to prepare yourself to deal with that. And rubbing your hands together and wishing upon a rainbow is not going to stop them from doing what they want to do when they find you. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you a little bit of dose of reality. And if you still have those friends and neighbors and family members that'll tell you, well, as long as you live your life right, then no one's going to feel the need to mess with you or hurt you or rob you. Yeah, there's 100,000 people in the graveyard that felt the same way that you feel right there. All right, moving on. So go team, Motor City Madhouse, go Detroit. What do we got coming up next in the show notes here, my brother?
We got the Arizona Supreme Court did something on our side.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is really cool. This comes to us from the story we've got here is the sfgate.com. So Jared, that this galled the hippies. I can't believe that the hippies in San Francisco at the sfgate.com that they actually put this up. It's kind of amazing that the fact that they couldn't ignore the story. But the dateline is Phoenix, Arizona. And the title of it is Arizona Court Overturns Ruling on Bus Stop Gun Ads. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set this up for you guys a little bit. There's a gentleman named Alan Corwin, and he has a firearm safety and training course. And so what he did is he bought, and you guys may have seen these or something similar, he bought bus stop ads in Phoenix, Arizona, because what do we have in Phoenix? It's a large city, lots of bus stops. People do that all the time. And it was a heart. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I was driving through downtown Gulfport yesterday, and I was driving by where the bus stops are, and it says your ad here, and I was thinking maybe Student of the Gun should put an ad there.
Yeah, your ad there, Student of the Gun. But so he put these bus stop ads up for his website and training, and it was a heart, and it said guns save lives. That was it. Guns save lives. Bought the ads, paid the ad company, they put them up. Well, the city of Phoenix didn't really like that. And so what they did is they basically arbitrarily applied their own standards to those, and they forced them to be taken down. And you're like, well, why? Well, why do you think? You're a smart student of the gun. Why do you think a major metropolitan area or a city council or a mayor would have a problem with that? Maybe because it has the G word in it. Well, but guns do save lives. Yeah, but we can't talk about that. It's not your job. It's the police's job. And if the police can't get there in time, then it's just your job to die. And so go on about your life, peasants, and die quietly. Well, the good news is this has actually been a couple of years ago, and the Arizona Court of Appeals ruled Thursday that the city of Phoenix violated a gun rights activist's constitutional protection when it removed his bus stop ads. It says a 3-panel judge said in the ruling that the city unconstitutionally applied its transit advertising standards when it denied Alan Corwin's ad for the gun safety training website. Oh, this goes all the way back to 2010. And what Alan did is it was a red heart, and it said guns save lives, and he had to modify it, and they made it like the heart was red to blue, and it said like, what did it say? Guns save life or guns, I don't know. He had to modify it and change it from the original. So this has actually been going on since 2010. Yeah, fantastic. We thought we'd throw this out there because this is actually, it's funny that we have a Second Amendment situation that is also a First Amendment situation.
I just want to let you guys know that it is not cheap to pay a graphic designer to design the logo and get it printed on something that will wear the weather. I just throwing that out there. So I'm guessing that the city, by making them change it, was trying to bully them into not spending the money to put it back up there.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. It's like, we don't like guns. We don't think people should have guns. Only the state should have guns. Only the government should have guns, not you peasants. You can't be trusted with guns.
Well, it says here, the city argued that Corwin was promoting political speech that would have created controversy, potentially sparked protests, stirred accusations of political favoritism, and affected transit revenue. So the city doesn't pay for ads that spark political protests or create controversy.
Yeah, the city governments never spend money on anything that would create controversy. So let me see. In Chicago, the city government gave a $1 million grant to Project Ceasefire for their anti-violence, anti-gun campaign. But that's okay. That's okay.
Different states.
Well, yeah, but still. I mean, this is a city government. So would it be okay for a city government to give a $1 million grant to Guns Save Lives, to promote life-saving training that would keep people alive.
And another thing that got me here is said, were you done with that thought?
Yeah, go ahead. Drive
Okay.
on.
It says, blah, 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 blah. And it says other entities cannot ban political or public service messages from government-owned advertising spaces. How does the government own those advertising spaces?
Because it's the transit authority. It's a city transit authority.
Who pays for it, though?
Oh, you mean you?
To have ownership, don't you have to pay for something?
You mean the taxpayers?
Yeah.
Where does what you're saying is, doesn't the government derive all of its revenue from the citizens? Ergo, it's taxpayer funded.
So Mr. Corwin here, and I'm guessing that they didn't have any complaints from citizens that lived in the city because it didn't state that. And if they did, then they probably would have made a bigger deal about it.
Oh, it was probably one mom's demand more bedroom action or something, and she was offended by it. It might have been that chick from Chicago that saw a picture of a gun and got scared. So I guess if people see the word GUN, that it makes them scared. It's because there are guns in the world. They exist, and we can't have that. But we thought that was interesting. We thought you guys would appreciate that we would have a First Amendment and a Second Amendment story kind of blending together there. Jared, how are we doing on time, brother?
We're coming up on about 40 minutes here. Actually, we just passed over 40. So
okay, well, let's move on to the next story then.
What we got here? The opposite is happening in Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court there obviously doesn't they didn't get the memo.
Well, yeah, this story. It's not a Second Amendment story, but it's a Bill of Rights kind of story, and it could very easily be a Second Amendment story. But this comes to us from LancasterOnline.com. And for those of you that went to public schools, Lancaster is a major city in Pennsylvania. And it says, Supreme Court, Pennsylvania cops no longer need a warrant to search citizens' vehicles. And you might be thinking to yourself, what? Well, let me go back in time for you a little bit. Let me go back about 20-some plus years when your beloved host, Professor Paul Markle, was going through the Ohio State Police Officers Academy. I went to the Peace Officers Academy, and we did searches and seizures. We did constitutional law. We did all that kind of stuff. And there have been many Supreme Court decisions, many rulings about where police officers are allowed to search, where you must indeed have a warrant, what's the difference between probable cause and reasonable, articulable suspicion, things of that nature. And what we basically were taught in the academy, as far as the Constitution is concerned, as far as the Fourth Amendment protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, Jared's going to go ahead and he's going to open up the U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment over there while I'm talking to you. He's going to pull up the exact Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. And remember, the Bill of Rights and the entire Constitution was written very simply. Never, ever, ever forget this. You guys out there in the student of the gun land, never forget that your founding fathers used very simple words. They didn't. Today, if you tried to write a Bill of Rights today, if we left it up to those clowns up there in D.C. today, the Bill of Rights would probably be 30,000 words long. 40,000 words long with writers and addendums and all this stuff. It seems that everything has to be overcomplicated today. And they did that so that the average person with an education who could read and write and understand history, understand civics, that they would get it without having to have it explained to them like a little 6-year-old by a judge or an attorney or a law professor or what have you. And therein the problem lies is you have to say to yourself, well, what do words mean? Now, Jared, you got that over there?
Yeah, I got it.
Go ahead and read the exact Fourth Amendment. Amendment number 4, U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights.
Well, according to my United States Constitution app on my phone, Amendment 4, proposed 25th September 1789, ratified 15th December 1791, says, The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Okay, well, that, I know maybe some of you recent public school graduates, that is confusing because it's several sentences put together in a discernible paragraph there. And I know some of the words that include more than 2 syllables are hard for you guys. But, if you, like I said, are a recent graduate of a public school system, find an older person to explain it to you. But now it says, unreasonable searches and seizures. All right. And then it says probable cause. Okay. And it says supported by a warrant. All right. So what does that mean? Is that putting a burden on the citizen? Does that put the burden on the citizen, or does that put the burden on the representative of the state? What is the Constitution? Is it there to put limits on the behaviors and activities of the citizen, or is it there to put limits on the authority of the government? Because if you're sitting out there and you think right now that according to the Constitution, the government can do anything it wants whenever it wants just because it's the government, you need to go back to school. You need to read a couple of books. You need to get your head right. It's not there because, and people say, well, but if you don't give them some more leeway, then criminals. How have we survived? How do we survive the first 200 years of our nation's history and not collapse into a system of criminal anarchy when we have these horrible restrictions put in place by the 4th and 5th Amendments? How have we survived? How have we been able to arrest, to find, charge, arrest, convict criminals for 200 years with this pesky 4th Amendment and 5th Amendment and so forth? How are we able to do that if these things are such an impediment to police officers doing their jobs? Well, the fact is, if you are a good police officer, if you know what you're doing, if you have some education and some skill, you don't need to circumvent the Constitution. You don't need to look for ways to get around the law. And anybody who tells you that you do, or any police officer out here who's listening to me who thinks, well, that's all well and good, but the Constitution doesn't understand drug dealers, and the Constitution doesn't understand thieves or rapists or robbers, or they couldn't have understood. Actually, they did understand it. They did understand it. They understand that there was always going to be bad people, and it was a responsibility of the good people to not just ignore it, but to address it. And when we went through the academy, essentially the way we were taught when dealing with a motor vehicle stop, if you came up on a motor vehicle stop and based upon what was presented in front of you, the evidence or the clues in front of you, if you felt that there was a chance that a person could be armed, that they had committed a crime or what have you, the way the rules were set up is you could search it based upon your probable cause, not just because I stopped you. The whole I pulled you over for speeding, and so now I'm going to search your car. No, because, back in the old days when we had a nation, when we had a republic, being in public, being on the highway is not probable cause for a stop. If you've ever been stopped by a police officer and they tell you, and you ask them, why'd you stop me? Because you're on the road and I'm a police officer and I can stop anybody I want. And unfortunately, I'm privy to situations where there have been police officers that have stopped people. Jared, you want to talk about that? When the guy told you that I don't need a reason, I'm a police officer.
Oh yeah, at the roadblock. Yeah, my friend Dallin and I were driving somewhere and we stopped at a roadblock, and I just casually asked the officer. I wanted him to articulate to me what the probable cause or the reasonable suspicion for stopping us was. And he said that the roadblock was the probable cause or reasonable suspicion. And so I asked him, I was like, so if I would have turned around and left and not came through this roadblock, what would you have done? And he said, well, I probably would have stopped you. And I was like, but why? And he said, well, because avoiding a roadblock is reasonable suspicion or probable cause to stop you. And I was like, no, it's not. Because the roadblock in the first place, you're not doing random stops and searches. It's everybody stops for no reason. And basically it came down to where he told me that he didn't need a reason.
Yeah, because I have a polyester uniform and a shiny badge, and so I can do anything I want. Folks, you don't want to live in a nation where the state has granted itself the authority at any time it feels like it to stop you, search you, take your property. That is totalitarianism. That is not the country. There have been innumerable countries. There are innumerable countries in this world where that is the rule. Whereas, the state, the members of the state, that's the government, can stop you, can search you, can come into your house, can search your vehicle anytime they feel like it just because. And that happened long before 1776, 1787, and 1791. And they knew that. The founders knew that the history of world governments was setting themselves up so that they had all the power and that you had none. And getting back to this Fourth Amendment situation, and the way it was when I was a police officer, if you stop someone, if you had reasonable suspicion based upon the evidence in front of you, let's say it rolls down the window and you lean in to talk to him and it smells like you just stuck your head in a brewery. Okay. I can smell alcohol. I know what alcohol smells like. Or it looks like you just stuck your head into the door of a Bob Marley concert. Yes, I know what narcotic drugs smell like. Or you look down in the ashtray and there's a bunch of marijuana cigarette roaches in the ashtray. Why do you dopeheads do that? I don't know, but they do. Do dopeheads still roll their joints on the dashboards of their cars, Jared? Do you know?
I don't know.
Well, here's another thing that dopeheads like to do: roll their joints on the dashboards of their cars, just because, and then all the dope seeds and stems and stuff roll down into the vents. So when you shine your flashlight down into the vents, you see marijuana seeds and stems in the vents because hippies can never get those out. Anyway, any situation where you believe that have probable cause to think driving while smelling like a brewery is probable cause to believe that this guy probably is intoxicated. Now, if that is the case, if you have something going on like that, you have probable cause, you can and could at the time search anywhere that was under the direct control of the driver. Anywhere so you're sitting behind the wheel, where can you reach? Well, you can reach under the seat. Yes. You can reach, into the glove box if you can reach it. Yes. The console between the seat. Yes. We could search there for further evidence of that crime, such as, folks, can I share the beer?
I thought you were going to do the glove compartment story.
Oh. The glove compartment where he opened the glove compartment to get his registration license and the hash pipe was right there and he closed it real quick.
You can't unsee that.
Yeah, I couldn't unsee the hash pipe. He was drunk anyway, but couldn't unsee the hash pipe in the glove compartment. No, we had when we pulled a guy over and he took his open beer and shoved it up underneath the seat of a Ford Escort. Hey, now, folks.
If you know anything about beer bottles, they don't usually fit standing straight up.
Yeah, usually, if you have a bottle, no, there were cans. There were cans.
Well, even a can.
Can's about yay tall. About 4 or 5 inches tall, something like that. 4.5 inches, however tall a can is. Well, in your standard Ford Escort at the time, go back in history with me, there was not enough clearance under the seat to stand a beer can up. But apparently they thought it would be a good idea to just shove the beer can up underneath it. And so by the time Officer Markle walked up to the window, the entire contents of the beer can had leaked out and soaked into the carpet. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to not notice something like that. But that was the standard, was anywhere where the driver, the person you're talking to, the person who's responsible, that you're pulling out to further inquire, any area that they could, in fact, have control over, you could lawfully search. But now, does the driver have control over the trunk? No, they can't reach the trunk. How about the engine compartment? How about the back seat? How about the, whatever it is? It's a Bronco. It's a whatever. Let's say it's a pickup truck, with a cap on it. And you arrest the driver for DUI. And so you're like, well, I'm arresting you for suspicion of DUI. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, open up the hood. I'm going to do everything. I'm going to search the entire vehicle. And the way the courts understood it then is if you wanted to do that, that was fine, but you had to apply for a warrant from a judge, a sitting magistrate, to search whatever. We want to search here, here, here. And this is why. Because we think the person's transporting narcotics, because we think the person, whatever. If you arrest them for, spousal abuse and they pistol whip their wife and you're looking for the gun. Things like that, specific things. But this blank open warrant, we can just search for anything we want at any time, at any place. Folks, it's bull crap. And this story out of Pennsylvania, basically the judge, it was a 4-2 ruling, and four of the judges voted for eliminating the need for officers to seek a warrant when searching a vehicle if they had quote unquote probable cause for a stop. Now, this is the big thing I'm gonna ask Pennsylvania is, all right, it's probable cause for a vehicle stop when someone is exceeding the 55 mile an hour speed limit. Okay, that is probable cause for a vehicle stop. You can issue someone a ticket. It's a minor misdemeanor. So does that also translate to anyone that I stop for a minor misdemeanor, for a traffic infraction, failing to come to a complete stop, not signaling on when they turn on a red light or what have you? Those are all moving violations. So if I have probable cause to stop you for failing to use your turn signal when you made a right turn, I stop you, I look at you, I'm like, I'd like to know what's in this guy's trunk. I can get you out, put you in my car, and search your entire vehicle because you didn't use your turn signal. Is that the case, or does there need to be additional probable cause, such as the DUI, such as so forth? And that's a big question we need to ask ourselves. And let me tell you what, if this is a blanket ruling by this judge that says, yeah, whatever, just go ahead and, if they're speeding and you feel like it, you got the time on your hands, just open the car and rifle through it.
From reading this entire article, it looks as though the local defense lawyers are all against it. They say that it infringes on people's rights, but the attorney general, who is a puppet, I'm assuming, is the only legal voice in this that supports it.
Well, it's not. They're not the only legal voice, because there's also another one. There was a dissenting opinion by 2 justices that stated that they were not in favor of this, that they did not think it was a good idea. And that's a question we need to ask ourselves, because, folks, like I said, you might be sitting out there thinking, well, how are police supposed to do their jobs if they have to get warrants every time they want to search people? I don't know. Maybe we should just give them gray uniforms, let them put little skulls on their hats and do whatever they feel like because they work for the state. That's the country we live in now? Well, if you weren't doing anything wrong, you shouldn't be worried.
How's that working for the Steel Corps ammo?
Well, we weren't doing anything wrong, but we still need to be punished. And the complete and total dishonesty of the Steel Corps ammo thing is that, number one, it's not a law. It's a ruling by a bureaucracy. A bureaucracy just filed a memo that said, "Oh, well, we've decided that we're not going to allow this anymore." All right, I wanted to get you the quote from the dissenting opinion, and let me get this right here.
I wasn't able to. I was looking for it earlier, but I couldn't find it.
It's in my article. Your host, Paul Markle, did an article for the Blaze here last week, and it talked about it. And it says, I'm looking for the dissenting opinion. Where's the dissenting opinion, Jared? You on the article on the Blaze?
It's in your article.
Yeah. All right, as you scroll down in 3, 2.
This is a long second.
This is a long second. All right. It's a long second.
Is it a long article?
Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it. It says the dissenting opinion in this case came from Justice Deborah McCloskey Todd, and she stated in the decision that the decision, quote, heedlessly contravenes over 225 years of unyielding protection against unreasonable search and seizure, which our people have enjoyed as their birthright. And you say, well, we know what the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution says. We've got that. But the Section 8 of the Pennsylvania Constitution is entitled Security from Searches and Seizures. And this is an exact quote from the Pennsylvania State Constitution. And it says, the people shall be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and possessions from unreasonable searches and seizures, and no warrants to search any place or to seize any person or thing shall issue without describing them as nearly as may be, nor without probable cause supported by oath or affirmation subscribed by the affiant. Now, yeah, I know that we just gave you a whole lot of words, but nowhere in those words did I see, well, if you're in a car and you're on the road and I have a reason to stop you, I can search your vehicle for anything I want.
Well, it wasn't in there, so obviously it's open for debate, right?
Yeah. Apparently the head of the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Pennsylvania, hasn't had the opportunity yet to read what the Pennsylvania State Constitution says, or doesn't quite understand it. Maybe he went to public school, Jared. What do you think?
Maybe so.
Maybe so.
We had I already told you, but I'm going to tell the audience. We had a dude write in, I believe it was on the forum, that he ended his question with, please excuse the grammar. I went to public school. So
You're
at least
excused.
somebody gets the humor and the sarcasm.
Yeah, it's what do they say? The first step is realizing you have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first step to a cure is to realize you have a problem. So there you go. Now, before we let you guys go, we wanted to remind you that it is indeed shooting sports season. And if you haven't had the opportunity yet to go over to the Midway USA Foundation link that's on studentofthegunradio.com. That's studentofthegunradio.com. Put them all together there. And up in the right-hand corner, there is a logo, and it is a logo for the Midway USA Foundation and the 4-H shooting sports. And if you'd like to, and we would like you to, because we know that you guys out there support youth shooting sports, and the 4-H program is a fantastic program. Take the time, check it out. If you have the means, don't wait. Okay, you can wait if you want. You're an American. Do whatever you want. But I think a lot of people, they'll go and they'll look at it and they'll say, well, in the future, I will do that. Well, the future is now. The future is these kids. These kids are the future, and they are the future of the shooting sports. Right now in the United States of America, you have a school system, whether it is elementary, pre-K, whatever, that is driving into the children's heads that guns are bad, that only members of the state should be allowed to have guns, and if you want to have guns, there's something wrong with you. That's what they get from the education system of the United States of America. And on the other hand, we have volunteer organizations like the 4-H Shooting Sports Program. And they are funded by donations from people just like you. And if you go to the Midway USA Foundation, you can make a donation directly through them, and the money will get to, this is a 501c3 charitable organization, not for profit. It will get directly to the 4-H Shooting Sports Program, and they can use that for their shooting sports programs, for their youth development programs. It's a worthwhile cause. Jared and I are going to be up there again this summer at the 4-H Shooting Sports Camp. And we haven't finalized it yet, but hopefully we're going to be doing a day-to-day report on the Blaze of what's going on at the shooting sports camp. So you guys want to check that out. If you haven't subscribed to the Blaze, or if you haven't checked out any of the articles that I've written, I did, 7, I think they published 7 or 8 articles that I've written in the last 30, 40 days. So check that out. Now, folks, you're out there right now. If you're listening to me, I have to think that if you aren't a liberal weenie member of the media or a member of the press, and you're just trying to get some show notes here, if you are listening to me and you're a dedicated student of the gun, you're probably a patriot, and you probably consider yourself to be a patriot. And you say, I believe in the founding of this nation. I look out across America and I see things are not right. Things need to change. I need to do something. You've done that. You've gotten to that point. But then the big question mark becomes, but what? And you say, I watch these prepper shows, but I don't want to be like these prepper guys because they're, quite frankly, the ones they show on TV are they look like lunatics. Yeah, they do that on purpose. So what can I do? Well, Jared and I got together. We spent some time. We did some work, and we have an answer for you. I want you to go to patriotfireteam.com. You can spell those words, right? patriotfireteam.com. Go there, check out the website. If you think it's worthwhile and if you have the time, if you're willing to invest your first name and your email address, if you're willing to make that huge investment of your name and your email address, we will send you the free report, How to Get Started, Patriot Fire Team, How to Get Started. And it talks about basically preparing yourself and your family and a small group of trusted friends and neighbors. And that is what we need to do in this country. If you look out away from the community, if you look out away from your state and say, well, it's up to someone else 1,000 miles away to make everything better in this nation, it's not going to happen. It's going to start right there in your home, in your community. That is where it's going to start. And if you're looking for a roadmap, if you're looking for a guide to help you out or to very least give you something to think about to get started, once you take a moment, go to patriotfireteam.com, check it out, sign up, get the free report. We're going to send you, like once or every couple of weeks, we'll send you a newsletter or something like that. It's easy, it's free. All it requires is the investment of your name and your email address. And before we let you go, when you hear this radio show, this is the last week that you have to sign up on studentofthegun.com for what, Jared? What are they going to win?
The American AK, the ammo range pack, and then, of course, the Frog Lube complete weapons care system to take care of that AK.
Jared, tell them what your garage smells like.
Oh, my garage. It smells like minty green awesomeness. You know why? Because I frog lubed my weight set this weekend.
That's right. Jared frog lubed his weight set. He set up his
my pulleys were stuck, and now they're not.
He set up his exercise equipment in his garage. I walked into his garage and I said, "It smells like a blend of mint and motor oil in here." So yeah, we're going to give away the Century Arms C39 100% made in the USA AK, a 180-round range pack to get you started, and a Frog Lube cleaning kit. And all you have to do is sign up for the Student of the Gun newsletter. Go to studentofthegun.com. Over there on the right-hand side, put in your name, your email address. When you get the email that says thank you, you have to confirm it, because if you don't confirm it, it doesn't count. Confirm it, and then go from there. And you'll get initially, what you'll get is you'll get the one box workout free report. You'll get immediate access to exclusive videos that only our subscribers get to see because they're in that super secret little hidden area of the internet. You'll get a special offers from the Student of the Gun store, all of that good stuff, just by signing up at studentofthegun.com. Make sure you're following us on social media. Like what, Jared?
Facebook, Twitter, anything social media. If you want to earn bonus entries, or if you want to see the previous giveaways and also the current giveaway that we are doing, go to join.studentofthegun.com, and all the information is on that page. That's
right. And you wanna give them a sneak preview of what you're scooping with Instagram?
Oh, yeah. I'm putting together several giveaways for our Instagram followers. We're doing a 2,000 follower giveaway, a 5,000 follower giveaway, and also a 10,000 follower giveaway. And so far we've got holsters, a custom bullet casing pin. What else we got? We got gift certificates for custom leather holsters. We got
Lots of
Man,
cool,
lots of
cool free
accessories,
stuff to
patches,
give away. Yeah. So if you're not checking out the Instagram, it's kind of a cool thing. Jared puts up pictures all the time, all week long. He's putting up pictures of what we're doing, and sometimes it's just silly, irreverent stuff. Sometimes it's us at the range. Who knows?
Speaking of which, I'm going to take a picture right now, and I'm going to post it. So if you want to see that, then
there you go. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, we thank you very much for being with us here at Student of the Gun. I am your host, Paul Markle, and Jared is my studio engineer. He is the man behind the board. He's the guy behind the curtain, the wizard behind the curtain, making everything happen. Now, don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that you are a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.